Hello and welcome into the 22nd episode of Unmasked, in the first Unmasked, where we are in two different states. How about that? First
Wow,
one
that's
ever.
crazy. Welcome back to Michigan, Jordan.
Welcome to Ann Arbor. This is my beautiful room here. It may look different, and we're coming to each other from across the country. This is what it's all about. It's a quarantine podcast, so we're making the most of being in quarantine in different states. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So
sir.
let's get right into it. I want to congratulate Adam, who is with us tonight, on his acceptance and now enrollment in the University of Texas. Adam, this is amazing news. Can we get a round of applause for Air Adam over here? I mean, come on, give it up for him.
Thank you,
Fly,
guys.
Adam, fly.
Such an honor to be shouted out on the Unmasked Quarantine podcast.
So, can you tell us what you were like when you got the news? I mean, like, where were you?
Oh, what a crazy story! So I was FaceTiming my little sister, and I just refreshed the portal, and it updated, and I was so shocked. I was absolutely shocked. So I was like, I gotta go. I just got in. I gotta go. And then I went downstairs and told my dad, and he was absolutely surprised. But the best part was whenever we told my mom, she was coming back from UT Southwestern because Abby was in town, my older sister getting vaccinated, and so they were coming back. And basically, when they arrived, I had this big Longhorn flag, and I was waving it in the garage, and then I planted it, just threw up at UT, and she and a hook 'em, and she just came out screaming so loud. I thought
Aw,
the I literally thought the neighbors were about to call the police because she was screaming so loud.
that's sweet.
It was really cool. And my grandfather's also super excited because he's a huge UT fan and legacy, and so he always wanted me to go. So it was just a really cool experience seeing them super happy and excited for me to go.
Not my grandfather, if that's what you're
I
curious.
was I was gonna
Different
ask
grandpa.
that.
And I
No,
Yeah.
did.
our shared grandpa is probably very excited for him too.
He
But
was. And grandma was more excited actually because
yeah,
she was actually crying. She was super happy too. So it was it was
I'm
super
sure.
cool to see them all happy and excited and supporting.
I'm sure she would cry if she saw Zach Den walking down the street. I mean, she cries at everything, so I cannot imagine you getting into Texas.
What?
It's
She
pretty
she
hard to
just loves
resist.
she loves life. She loves life. She loves our friends. She loves us. It's
Sweet.
just
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty hard to resist crying to Zach Den.
yeah, that is true. Well, Zach Den will overlap with Adam 1 year at UT. I mean, are we thinking like dynamic duo here? You guys going to be doing the podcast together in Austin? Like
Oh my god.
We might
this
have
is
to.
this is just history in the making here. I don't think we've ever been in the same spot for a podcast. So if this continues, watch out. Taking it on from Austin. So congrats, Adam. We are all proud of you. Are you going to keep flying? Is that in the plans, or are we putting that on hold?
It is, yeah. I think I might be able to make it. I don't know exactly. I'm still kind of thinking about mapping out, but San Marcos has a great airport and training facilities, so maybe I could go down there a couple times a week and fly and keep training. But for now, yeah, I'm gonna keep flying here at Addison, and then we'll see what happens at UT.
Wait, could you fly me to classes possibly?
I mean, if there's a landing strip at your class, sure,
Sweet, sweet. Thanks, Adam.
no problem. Maybe we can land it on the what's it called, the Speedway.
Yeah.
We can land
Oh,
it on the
fact.
Speedway,
It's probably really dangerous. I think you'd get arrested.
most likely. But they can't arrest Air Adam.
No, Air Adam is untouchable.
Exactly.
Not sure about that one.
Well, isn't it great that Adam found out that he got his ACT score on Unmasked, and then he tells a story about getting into Texas on Unmasked? I feel like we're growing up with Adam on this
Yeah.
podcast.
Wow.
I feel like our
That's very
listeners
true. That's
have
sweet.
Yeah, my
they've
senior
locked
year.
into your high school experience here. So Mazel Tov, we're all very proud of you. Um, well, yeah, it's been a while since we've done this, and Adam getting into college. There's just a lot going on. I think the first thing we should start with, though, outside of the world of Adam, is what happened yesterday. Today we are taping this. It's Monday, January 31st. Yesterday, there was a big trade in the NFL, and I want to get your take on it, Zach Den, because you're a fantasy monster.
Fantasy Monster. I don't know about that one.
You love your fantasy football.
I do
Uh,
love my
Jared
fantasy.
Goff is not that good. He did not end the year that great, but the Lions got a haul for Matt Stafford. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I think it was honestly a pretty solid trade all around. But I mean, overall, dude, I think LA was already a serious competitor this year, and they just got a whole lot better. Matthew Stafford there. I mean, they have a great receiving core. Their running game at the end of the season started to really pick up with Cam Akers getting really comfortable with the ball. I'm excited to see LA next year. I think they can make a really strong statement.
Not to mention the best defense. I mean, Aaron
Not to
Donald,
mention the
Jalen
best.
Ramsey.
Aaron Donald is, I would say, the most elite athlete in the league. Like, just in terms of what he can do, he is scary, dude. He's scary.
Oh yeah, I mean he could go down as the best ever. Like they've been saying that. JJ Watt has said that, and just guys who have the utmost respect for him. And now you add a quarterback. Like that's the one thing they didn't have. You know, they're
Right.
starting Walford, whatever, in a playoff game. Like, you know, now you get at least a seasoned vet, Matt Stafford. So,
Yeah,
you know,
dude, it's gonna be scary. They're gonna be a scary team next year, and exciting one.
but like I said, I think Detroit got a haul to get 2 first-round picks. I mean, remember how valuable first-round picks are in the NFL. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't even worth a first-round pick from the Houston Texans. So to get 2 first-rounders for Matt Stafford and a third-rounder, I mean, that's Detroit setting themselves up in a way where they can draft a quarterback, or worst case scenario, have a solid game manager in Jared Goff, someone who's not going to screw it up for them. You know, it's not like they're going to throw in. Their plan was going to throw in Chase Daniel. Like that's a backup quarterback. Jared Goff is competent at least. So they get a competent quarterback and a couple high picks. You know, I think that's a win for them.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely worked out on both sides for sure. They're building for the future. LA's building for now.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the aftermath of another trade because in the NBA, I think I was trying to think of the best storyline that's been going on recently, and you know we talked a little about the Harden trade, whatever, and that's been great. But I think the biggest news is the success of the Rockets, and I think it affects both of us. So, do you see the new big three of Oladipo, Wall, and Christian Wood or DeMarcus Cousins, whatever person on the island of misfit toys you want to pick out there?
Mhm.
Do you see them as a threat to our division? Should Spurs and Mavs be scared here?
They have been pretty good. No, I'm gonna say no. I don't think long run they're gonna be a solid competitor. I guess maybe in terms of making the playoffs, since we're all like fringe playoff teams right now. I guess they could be a threat in that sense, but I don't really see that squad of the eclectic squad really working out in the long run. Where as opposed to like Luka Doncic and Kristaps, or oh my boys Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, and DeMar DeRozan. I just don't see the same like sustained quality with these kind of like some of them older guys, and then Christian Wood who's on the come up. But I mean, yeah, I don't believe the hype.
You know, I don't believe the hype either, but I think like Lil Baby, they got something to prove. I think that that should have been our fan mail. But I think that you look at that team and it's like John Wall, Wizards gave up on him. You got Victor Oladipo, the world's given up on him, his injuries, everything like that.
Right.
Christian Wood, Shaq said on air, he's like, "Oh, son, I wasn't really familiar with the game before tonight. No one believes in him. DeMarcus Cousins, like, give me a break." And then
Yeah.
you got role players like Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker, who people think were just pawns in the James Harden system. Like they have something to prove, and when you have a chip on your shoulder, that's dangerous. Like they've won 5 in a row. It's I don't know. You know, in a West when anything can happen here, I mean, the bad teams are starting to get weeded out. You see the Pelicans. I mean, they beat the Bucks, but they're not looking great. The Timberwolves, better days.
Other days ahead.
You know, like it's the Rockets. If they put together a run here in a shortened season, just look out. Is all I'm saying. I don't know if they're a threat to the division, but I think they could be better than people thought after that Harden trade.
Okay, but like, what's your ceiling for them?
My ceiling for them is probably finishing as a team that's like 3 or 4 games above 500 and making the play-in tournament, and probably not as a host seed, so like as a 9 or a 10, and then having to win one of those games against like the Blazers or someone at that point. Um,
Maybe
so
sneaking in the playoffs.
yeah, sneak in the playoffs, but a first round exit. But still, I mean, you look at that and you're like, you traded away your 2 best players from last year. You traded away your 3rd best player earlier last year with Clint Capella on the move. Like this team wasn't supposed to compete. You know, who knew? John
Right.
Wall was a salary match. Victor Oladipo was just to clear out the room. This team is set up in terms of like contract wise for a bunch of buyouts, a bunch of trades. Like this team was set up for Oladipo to walk in the offseason, to buy out Wall and Cousins, to trade Tucker and Gordon. Like that's what this is, and build for the future. Christian Wood, picks, all that kind of stuff. That's not going to happen if they keep winning. I'll tell you that.
It's a scary thought. Nothing I want to see more than Houston to go down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They just
Nothing.
won't. They won't do it. They just won't roll over.
Looks like the Texans might though.
Yeah, no, that is that's the next move in the NFL is Deshaun Watson. Did you
He
see?
already requested a trade.
Yeah,
He's gonna be out of there. I don't know where he's gonna go, but he'll be out of there.
he contacted James Harden just to talk to him about everything getting out of Houston.
Really?
Yeah, but the new GM says he's our guy. The new coach is saying, and by the way, the new coach, you'll listen to our interview that's coming up with Jori Epstein and Zach Epstein. The Houston Texans announced their coaching hire while we were talking to them. So now this is a few days later, and so this is again Monday the 31st. And the Texans coach just had his introductory press conference, and he's saying, "Look, I wouldn't have taken this job if I knew Deshaun Watson wasn't going to be here." So that's what he has to say. But it makes you think, like, are they going to play hardball too? Like, do they have any leverage here against a guy like that?
Very little, bro. I see them in a very similar situation to like the Spurs with Kawhi when he was forcing his way out, dude. Deshaun Watson has made it very clear he wants out of Houston, and I really don't know how much leverage they have.
The only difference is in the NFL, not all the money's guaranteed. So you have a guy like Deshaun Watson who's really young, and he's signed a big contract. He still has 3 years left on that thing. Like they could very easily. He's only guaranteed. I think his salary is the lowest this year of any of the remaining years. So if they cut ties now, I mean, if he holds out, they could fine him. They could not give money. Like there's a lot of loopholes in the NFL with those kind of contracts. So where Kawhi was getting guaranteed money and had already signed a few contracts, this is a little bit more. Deshaun Watson needs to secure the bag before he thinks about rings, in my opinion. But if he's going to go somewhere, I would love to see Miami. I don't want to see him go to the Jets.
I've heard about Miami a lot.
Yeah, trading Tua, and then trading the Texans pick back to Houston that the Dolphins have, and a few other firsts. We'll see. I hope Jerry does not pull the trigger on this because I would love for him to just secure Dak, and we'll talk about that with Jory too. Like I would love for him to just take care of Dak and not even worry about Deshaun, but I know it's like tantalizing for him to go after the prize.
Absolutely.
And then another piece of news that we'll talk about, Jory, that happened the day that we did this recording, which I believe was last Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken, was Jason Witten retiring, which is really sad for all Cowboys fans. We'll get into that a little bit.
Wait, that actually would be crazy though if Deshaun Watson like came to Dallas. Just like in theory, like a Houston guy, like their franchise guy, like coming to Dallas. I don't know. Has that ever happened before? In any like major sport?
Like Houston to Dallas?
Houston or Dallas to Houston? I can't think of any time where like the major guy,
yeah. But for the most part, we're not in the same division. Like the Astros joined in like 2013. The Texans have never been a part of.
Yeah, but there's still a rivalry nonetheless.
Yeah, I guess. Adam, did that highlighter taste good?
I was thinking about it for a second. Did Josh Hamilton go to the Astros?
He went to the Angels, really close.
Oh, okay.
That's probably the biggest rival. Like that's the equivalent of the Rockets Mavs. If you're gonna make a comparison.
Close.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I can't think of anyone who even played for both teams, really. But yeah, we're gonna have to think about that and come back. But Randall Cobb left the Cowboys and went to the Texans this year. If you want to make that, but he played 1 year on the Cowboys, so I don't consider that.
Nah, not the same, dude. Honestly, like in a weird way, like I'd say like Tracy McGrady going to the Spurs, like his like last year, considering like a lot of his career was a Rocket.
But he was ring chasing. It was at the very end. He wasn't at his peak. This would be Deshaun Watson.
Okay, you're right. That's fair.
That was his last stop.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it's kind of like the same idea of like I don't know. It's just like interesting when they go to their rival. Can't beat them, join them.
That's fair. Last thing I wanted to do is, our schools are number 4, number 5 in the rankings in basketball right now. but I would say this has been a very bad week for both of us.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your Oklahoma loss at all?
That was tough. I also saw. I watched that one live. Dude, that was tough. That was a tough game to watch. The ending was crazy. And then yeah, I mean, Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham, number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
He's built different. I mean, honestly, I'm proud of the Hornets for doing so well this year, so I can't really be too disappointed. But those losses were heartbreaking.
Adam, is it true that you're trying out for the team next year, basketball? That you're going to try to walk on? That Chuck has already contacted you?
Yeah, he has. I am indeed going to walk on. He's very impressed by my vertical.
And it's hard to see because you're sitting down all the time. But Adam is actually 6'9".
Is he really?
Yes.
Adam is 6'9". Yep, 6'9". What? 250? I think that's 6'9",
265.
260. Okay,
Yeah.
So he's been lifting a little bit. That makes sense. But yeah, Michigan also did not have a great week. We were rolling. We got up to 4th in the country after being unranked at the beginning of the season. We're like 12-1, playing really well. And the COVID variant hit our athletic department.
COVID variant.
So there were, I think, like 11 cases or something in the athletic department. And so they shut the entire thing down for 2 weeks. No sports at all on campus.
Wow.
So including no gyms for us. So I actually got to play indoor basketball for the first time in 10 months. And 3 hours later, the gyms were shut down for 2 weeks. So I got my basketball in Ann Arbor just by myself. It was really nice.
Nice.
But yeah, it's definitely different up here, and it's weird not having a basketball team for the next couple weeks. But we're in 4th, so who knows if we're going to change spots. I also want to point out, I'm looking in I'm checking myself out in the Zoom here. So if you can see, I have a little bit of a bite here. I don't know if you can see. It's a little red. What?
Get you.
Luca, my dog, bit me on the day before I left for Ann Arbor. Thanks so graciously.
I knew it.
Yeah, it was, it was your classic. Luca is biting your sock, and all you want to do is just put the sock on. And so you grab the sock, and when you reach for it, he bites your cheek. So that's what happened. And it happened right before I came up here. So I'm saying that because we're about to watch, if you're on YouTube or hopefully listening on Spotify so you don't see this, the interview with the Epstein siblings, and it's very clear that I have a bite at that time. Now it's fading a little bit, but you can look out for it. That's how you can tell. Like in TV shows when there's a flashback and there's something wrong with like there's a scratch on someone and like you're like, oh, that's a flashback version of whatever. You can tell when you see a big scar that'll be interview version of Jordan, and it's a flashback to our interview. So let's get into it, because
that dog never liked me. I gotta say that.
No, he doesn't like anyone. He hates Adam.
I mean,
like hates
viciously.
Adam.
He has bit me too on my pinky.
Yeah.
One time, remember?
No, he's a really bad dog.
I can relate to the dog in that way.
Yeah, he barks at Zach through the window pretty much the entire time you're in the backyard.
That's
all right. Well, let's get into the interview because it's a really good one. It's pretty long, so hopefully you guys stay for it. We talk about Cowboys, NFL, Judaism,
everything under the sun.
Westbrook. What?
Everything under the sun.
Everything. And it's with Jori Epstein, who is a writer for USA Today covering the NFL and specifically the Cowboys, and Zach Epstein. Yeah. No, Zach is our friend and big in Hillel International, big basketball player, Texas women's team, just a great guy.
A great friend of ours.
Great friend. So it's a really amazing interview. Please stick around, and we will have that for you right now after this, whenever. Give us a second on Unmasked.
And we are back on Unmasked with some very special guests today.
Very.
Jori Epstein, esteemed journalist and author, and her brother, Zach Epstein, good friend of mine, fellow student at UT in Jordan.
Esteemed dunk trainee. Very.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Athlete of the year.
Vert shock extraordinaire.
2-time vert shock extraordinaire.
Finisher.
I get a participation.
Yes.
Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
We've been long overdue for an Epstein family gathering here. We want to introduce you guys, but I think that you guys will probably be the best at talking about yourselves. So do you want to talk a little bit more than what we did and just talk a little bit about what you guys do and, your general interests?
How about I talk about what Zach does and Zach talks about what I do?
Perfect. Let's do that.
Okay, so Zach Epstein is a senior at the University of Texas studying Plan 2 and Jewish studies. He also happens to work out with the women's basketball team at the University of Texas as a practice player. So you never know which Big 12 player he'll be scouting this week. And on top of that, Zach is involved with Hillel International. He likes to bring snacks and basketball to Jewish institutions. Sometimes it's called snackery for that reason.
Oh, yeah.
And ever since 1999 has been the youngest member of the Epstein siblings.
Well, thanks for the fascinating introduction, Jori. And now for the star of the show, Jori Epstein, currently a USA Today NFL reporter focusing mainly on the Cowboys, but also on the NFL as a whole, published a book called The Upstander about renowned Holocaust survivor Max Globin, pre-order on Amazon now, and that's The Upstander. Shot up the charts the other day. I will say Jordan and I actually
link in the show notes.
Jordan and I actually went to Poland with both Jori and Max Globin, so a lot of connections there.
And I went with Dia Barry.
Yeah, Zach.
So we all
pretty much everyone here has been on the march except for Adam, and hopefully he'll get to go one day. But yeah, Jori previously worked at both the Dallas Morning News and Sports Illustrated. She tries to be unbiased and not necessarily be a Cowboys fan in the household. We try to convince her to continue being a Cowboys fan, and it's good. The back and forth is great. But we're happy to be here and always happy to be with Jori.
Wow, those are some great introductions. I think that did the job. I definitely want to talk about the book because, like Zach said, I was on the march, and I had no idea that that's what you were even working on at that point. And we will get to that, but I do first, just because it's the current news of the day, and I was really excited to get your opinion on this. I want to know what you think of the Jason Witten retirement for the second time, and if he's going to be a coach, and if it's too late for him to be a coach next year, if he can potentially sneak into one of these organizations in the next few weeks.
Yeah, you bet. It's a great question. So yes, Jason Witten retiring for a second time. His plan, what he told ESPN is that when his 1-year contract with the Raiders concludes in March, he'll sign a 1-day contract with the Cowboys, retire as a Cowboy, which makes sense, especially given he played for the Cowboys for 16 years. The Raiders just won. And I absolutely think he will go into coaching. I think the question will be, like you said, will it be in 1 month, in 3 months, in 6 months? And will it be first at the high school, college, or pro level? He definitely has pro coaching aspirations. We talked to him about that last year. I remember it was one of our last locker room times. I think it was right before the last game he played as a Cowboy, and everyone was trying to get him to be like, are you going to replace Jason Garrett when he's gone? And he's like, I don't think we should go there, like walking out of the locker room as he's asked that. But he absolutely wants to coach, and he wants to do it at the pro level. And I think he'll be a great coach.
I think he will be too. He was just always a great leader of that locker room. I would love to see him win something for once. I feel like we failed him as a city. But
yeah,
he's always one of my favorites.
For sure. Oh, and you had asked, do I think he'll be able to slide in for this year? I think that there's a salary cap for players in the NFL. There isn't one for coaches. So if an organization wants to bring him in, they can find a position for him. I also get the sense that if he didn't have something lined up, he would have waited to make this announcement, because why now? So I think he probably told someone he's going to them. And that's why he's announcing now.
Interesting.
Do you want to talk about your path in journalism and everything else?
Yeah, for sure. So went to University of Texas like a couple of you guys, and I knew I wanted to write. Well, first I went to Yavne Academy also, like a couple of you guys, where my journalism experience really started at the Bulldog Print. And then when I got to college, I was like, oh, I definitely want to work for the school newspaper. And I was planning to apply to be a news reporter. And then they're like, great, it's going to be so exciting. Every time news breaks, you get to leave class and go report it. And I was like, great, I'm not doing that. I love class. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll report opinions. Like my sister had done that. She really liked it. And then I was like, who am I to give my opinion on this campus? I showed up here like yesterday. So sports kind of worked with the schedule a little better. So I was like, I'll see what happens there. And I liked playing sports, but I really didn't follow sports very avidly growing up. But yeah, so that was really the main reason I got into sports at the Daily Texan. And also when I got to UT, I found out that the school had a partnership with Sports Illustrated, where every semester they were sending a student to New York to work for Sports Illustrated. And I was like, I want to do that internship. My junior year, some of my friends had planned to go abroad in the spring. I was like, I want to spend a semester in New York, and kind of asked them what I needed to do to be a competitive applicant. Made sure I'd checked all the boxes before that time came around, and ended up doing that internship in New York. Worked in Washington, D.C. one summer in college, Philly the next. And then after school, I worked for the Dallas Morning News. And actually, initially at the Dallas Morning News, my role was digital sports producer, which is much more social media, website, do a lot of things quickly, which I'm not good at all. And I have my reviews from the annual reviews to let you know that. But I really wanted to report, and they knew that. And we were trying to figure out ways I could report. And the main reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I ended up on Cowboys is I observed Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. So sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, I don't work. So I couldn't cover high school football on Friday. I couldn't cover college football on Saturday. So they're like, how about for Cowboys games, when our reporters are all going to the Cowboys locker room, you go to the opponent locker room and try and get some Cowboys-centric story. So that was actually how I started in NFL coverage. Just assumed that Shabbat and sports would stop vibing and I'd go find another career one day, but I've had a great time while I did it. And we are 5 years later and I'm still here. But yeah, so worked my way up the reporting, which is what I really wanted to do. I much prefer telling people stories and trying to find something that nobody knows and teach it to fans and audiences. And after 2.5 years at the Dallas Morning News, USA Today reached out about an NFL opening. So I have been with USA Today since October of 2018, where I primarily report on the Cowboys, but especially this time of year when the Cowboys don't seem to stick around lately, the NFL more broadly, and occasionally I spent some time with college sports last summer. If there's a good story that I want to tell, it doesn't have to be about the Cowboys or the NFL, but those are definitely my focuses.
So I definitely want to get into that subtle shot to the Cowboys, because this was a disappointing season. But I want to know first, because you mentioned something that's really important to me. I recently started keeping Shabbat before college, and I think that it's something that's really cool. And Zach, I know you do too. So I want to know, like, from you guys, and if you can tell people who are listening, what are some of the challenges you face, and like, how do you still stay able to do that even while you're working or in school? Because I know what I do, but I'd love to hear it from you guys who've done it for a lot longer.
Yeah, Zach, go ahead and start. And then after we go, I'd love to hear what you do, Jordan.
For sure. So first of all, if anyone's paying attention to Jori's story, it's a great about just working your way up the ladder. It's a great example of getting your foot in the door and then kind of doing what you want and making them give you that job. Because as she said, she wasn't a reporter, but she reported on stories, and you could see in her end of the report she talked about, she kept saying, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. But it's because she was reporting some of the best viewed stories on the site and for the publication. So you get your foot in the door, and a lot can happen. But back to Shabbat. For me, I started keeping Shabbat, I think about middle school. I stopped using my phone. Or actually, when I got a cell phone for the first time, I decided right away I wasn't going to use it on Shabbat. And I've loved it ever since. I think being able to schedule your work week for 5 or 6 days of the week, and then just shutting down, focusing on the relationships with other people and your relationships with your religion, and really being in the moment. Nothing else matters on Shabbat besides the thing you're at, has always been special to me. In college, it hasn't been particularly hard. I don't need to drive anywhere most of the time. I don't need to do homework. I just schedule it the rest of the week. It actually got a little interesting over the last, I'd say, 2 months, because I don't usually practice with the women's team on Shabbat. But while Chabad and Hillel were closed from Thanksgiving to now, I did practice on Shabbat. And it was interesting because it's a 2-mile walk each way. So I don't recommend a 2-mile walk each way with a 3-hour practice in between. The walk back was always a lot harder than the walk there. And there were a lot of intricacies about, like, I should be using my phone to fill something out before I go. And I worked that out with the trainer. I figured it out with the team, and I was still able to do it. So I think if you're committed enough to something, people are willing to, and you care enough about it, and you're good at it. For example, Jori at the job, I like to think me with the team, just being one of the more committed practice players, they'll work with you to make it happen because they know you're such a value added in the 6 days that you are there, or in the 7th day you're there as well, even if it's in a unique situation.
For sure. Yeah, I think that Zach and I were having this conversation the other day because Amari Stoudemire, which, as I told him, this is all I know about the NBA, so we pass it on to Zach after this.
We love
but,
Amari.
but Amari Stoudemire had announced that in his coaching position with the Nets, he had requested to keep Shabbat, meaning no work from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, and it was granted, and I was so excited. And that's something I do as well. And I was talking to Zach about how I wanted to tweet about it, and I was like, does this sound okay? Because I never want to sound like, oh, I just think I can coast part of the week. But I think when it comes down to it, if you really show people that you're going to work your butt off the rest of the week to always validate their decisions to work with you, then yes, you have to get creative about Shabbat, particularly in the sports industry, because so much of sports happens on the weekends. But I mean, I don't think I could. The level I'm working at right now is probably unsustainable anyways, if you ask my family. And so certainly if I were to try that for 7 days a week instead of 6, I think it just like refreshes me every week. It's motivating. But it has had.
I want to point out, you're saying you're coasting, quote unquote. Most people work 5 days a week. You're quote unquote coasting while working 6 days a week. I think you're doing okay.
That is a good point. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And it's something I've had to talk to my bosses about because they needed to know that going in. And that was something I tried to plant the seeds really early, where I was a junior at UT, talking to Dallas Morning News editors and being like, by the way, this is a lifestyle decision I've made. Does this work? Is it still worth trying to apply for this job? And kudos to the editors there. They said, we'd have to get creative, but you should still apply. And then when I got to USA Today also, I had gone through some phone interviews with them, and they're like, great, can you come out to McLean, which is in the DC area, to interview? And I'm like, before I come out, I want you to know this. And I used to more apologize for it. Like, I'm sorry, this is inconvenient. Is it okay? And now I'm more at the place where I say, this is a lifestyle decision I've made. I recognize that it's unusual. Everything I've done that you're interested in me on, or interested in me working with me on, has been done with this lifestyle decision, and I'll work Sunday to Friday to validate your investment. Are you on board? And I think when you frame it that way, you have to be willing to always work the rest of the time. Not always work. I should change that. You have to be willing to show them that you are going to make sure that you're meeting the needs of the company, but I think it can be done. But Jordan, how have you gone about doing it in school?
I first want to say that point on like the track record, and I think 2 points were great. One, that people should, people who matter, or if you matter to them, they should be able to be flexible, especially with something like this that's obviously so important to you. And then I think the track record is so true. Like, if you've been able to be successful up until this point, isn't that enough for that person to accept that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really commend you guys, because you guys have been doing it a long time, and you're two of the greats in this area. I always consult Zach when I have a Shabbos question or something about
Me
keeping
too.
kosher, so.
And I also started when I got to college, and like you said, it was interesting, but then you get to the point where you're like, it's also really wonderful. And it's not just about what you can't do. It's so much about what you can do. And I just love all of the things you can do. I think I sent Zach a picture last week of like me reading the Torah portion, and then my Siddur, and then this other book that we were reading. And I'm like, this is such a good day. Like, I'm just going from rabbi to rabbi and seeing what they all have to say for the day. And I mean, also getting outdoors and whatnot, but that just like gives me so much energy. And one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was deciding whether to leave the Dallas Morning News for USA Today is that if you're energized by what you do, then it's sometimes like being energized by a busy schedule is better than having less on your plate that you're not energized by. And I think that kind of adds to that with Shabbat. Is it's just a different type of thing on our plate, but it renews us every week.
Nevertheless, we still have a pretty big game in a couple of weeks, and I wanted to talk about that too, because we now know that the Chiefs are going to be playing the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. It's Tom Brady, it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, stage cannot get bigger. So before we get into predictions and stuff, I just want to know, like, impressions as a whole. Like, we've gotten to this point. It's the Super Bowl. We are on track. Zach and Joe, are you guys surprised that we made it here without any additional weeks added, that, it's gone so smoothly-ish somewhat?
Yeah, I thought they would start the season and that they would end the season, but I didn't think they'd get all the way through the season, much less on schedule. That's been pretty shocking to me. And I mean, they do have very strict protocols, everything from daily testing for the players' friends and family who they live with can get tested, distancing, masks, etc. But it's definitely surprised me. I mean, in July, it was also funny because right before the season, a lot of things happened very last minute. So I thought, I was like, okay, great, I'll take next week off, like get a little bit of break. And then they're like, all right, training camp. And I'm like, when were you guys going to let us know?
I don't know. I think the NFL is just a very fortunate league. I think they mess a lot up, and I always applaud the NBA for doing almost everything better than the NFL. But I think the NFL, especially the way their season is timed with COVID, they got to watch all the other leagues do what they did, watch the NBA go through the bubble, watch the MLB struggle and whatnot. And then I feel like they just kind of get lucky. There was a later season, they have longer times between games, and it wasn't perfect. There was that game where the Broncos didn't have a quarterback, but for the most part, I think they figure it out and they make it work.
But
They
one
put
question I would ask you in response to that, because I am really curious about this, not to defend the NFL, but when the Mavs and Stars started, I think each of those teams had more players test positive in like a week of COVID than the Cowboys, who have 53 players on their team, had the entire season.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, yes, I would say maybe the NBA and NHL players are more irresponsible, or the NFL players only have to travel 8 times throughout the year, and the NBA
That's
players
a
have to
different exposure.
travel like 35 different times.
And it's
so.
also an
That's
outdoor sport. You can't forget that it's
Yeah.
completely outdoors. And
Where
I mean,
you're
like, I
wearing
guess not for
helmets,
everyone,
yeah.
not for everyone, but practices and stuff. Like you go into the American Airlines Center, like there's fans at the hockey game and stuff. Like I just feel like it's a more condensed area where
Yeah,
something bad could happen. But
those are good points.
Yeah.
yeah,
Basketball's a tougher sport to keep.
yeah.
Tougher sport. What do you mean?
No, a tougher sport in the COVID world.
No, yeah, of course. Wait, back to the Cowboys though for a second. What were like your impressions of Mike McCarthy this season?
Yeah, it was interesting. So with Jason, I've been covering the Cowboys since 2016 in some regard and really been around them since 2017. And with Jason Garrett, we would have the press conferences 4 or 5 days a week. And then we would talk to him off to the side after so that we could ask him questions to get a better sense of what's going on, even if he wasn't comfortable saying it publicly. And we would see him at all these practices. And this year was just so different because with COVID, I mean, like when McCarthy was hired, we saw him at the press conference. At the scouting combine in Indianapolis last year, we actually had lunch with him, a group of us. So that was a good in-person meetup. Which it seemed, I was like, this is too good to be true. And then it was. I never saw him in person again up close. But remind me to tell y'all a funny story about that after this. But yeah, so I think from like a personability standpoint, it's just a little bit hard to capture some of it through the phone and the screen. But overall, I would say he definitely is more aggressive during game time than Jason Garrett. Loves going for it on 4th downs, probably sometimes to a fault, but other times I'm sure it'll work.
Thanksgiving.
And I think that, I mean, just a very different demeanor. Like Garrett's very buttoned up and he's got a lot of great things to say, but much more, I think he puts on a face, and McCarthy sometimes just doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He didn't have statistically a good first year in the records, or he was like huge on turnover ratio before the season started. And there was a time when the Cowboys were like minus 13. And I'm like, oh, okay, something's not working.
Yeah.
But also you got to give him a little bit of, cut him a little bit of slack because he lost his quarterback. He lost 2 of his offensive linemen for the entire season and 4 for parts of the season, or 4 starters, 8 total. I think there were a lot of things. I think the biggest thing I would knock him for is that I think you have to, even if he's an offensive coach, you have to implement a defensive coaching staff you believe in. Because arguably people would say if you're an offensive coach, your most important hire is your defensive coordinator because you need him to handle that. And he hired someone he had worked with before. And Mike Nolan's a very nice man, but it didn't work this year, what they were trying to implement. And I think that falls on McCarthy, who made the decision to hire him. So I think that they did, I think towards the end of the season, even though they were playing easier opponents, when they were able to win, 3 or 4 in a row, I think that showed something because they just needed to stack wins because for so long they weren't able to win 2 in a row. And I think that's an important skill. So my understanding is Dak really likes him. I think that he did lay some foundations here. And if you can do something right in COVID, then what next year at least should be better, even if it's not fully back to normal. And he should have Dak or some quarterback back. And I think that it'll only get easier from here. What did y'all think?
I think he didn't clap enough, to be honest. I was used to a lot of
It's
clapping on the
definitely a
sideline.
decrease in clapping.
No, he got flustered in some games, like I just thought he was a more seasoned coach than that.
Yeah.
And I just felt like he got out coached more than he was the veteran coach, on these sidelines. And it was a little frustrating because it really proves that it may have been more Aaron Rodgers than the coaching staff in Green Bay, but we'll see. I know.
Right. I can't think of a game that I felt like the Cowboys had a clear head coaching advantage.
Right.
And the new coaching staff in Green Bay's made 2 NFC championships in 2 years.
Yeah.
And Green Bay is potentially not in the Super Bowl because of a coaching decision, not
right.
So
Rodgers was the best quarterback in the league this year.
Yeah.
You alluded to it a little bit, and I don't want to make you talk about something you're uncomfortable talking about it, but but with the Dak situation, what do you think is the future of this? Because I know that you're close to him, you've talked to him, you know him well. Is there a future for him in Dallas?
Yeah, I like to think there is because I think both sides are worse off without the other one for them, like overall, but they're not making progress and it's been 3 years of negotiating. So like at some point, like if I was trying to get a raise for my bosses, and this happened at the Dallas Morning News for a while when they weren't giving it to me, but I'm like, at some point, what's going to change and what's the leverage going to take? And I mean, these quarterbacks aren't going to want to sign super long deals right now because the league is about to make a whole lot more money with the new broadcasting and media deal. And these teams aren't going to want to sign super short deals because there's going to be a loss of revenue projected in 2021. So they need salary cap space. And so someone's got to budge if you want a deal. It definitely is interesting how the landscape changes, if at all, with Matthew Stafford on the market. And even not all of these guys are on the market, but I don't think you can stay with certainty that I was just writing this down earlier, actually, that the following guys will, Breeze. So you've got Rivers retires. So Indy needs a quarterback. Breeze is expected to retire any day now. So New Orleans might have something in Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, but they might want someone new. Stafford's leaving, so the Lions need someone. He's got to go somewhere. Roethlisberger could not stay in Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson, I think he'll stay in Houston, but he certainly doesn't act like he wants to. And then even the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo and the Rams with Jared Goff, they're not being overly excited about their quarterback. So it's definitely going to be, it's funny. I think in December, November, we probably thought Carson Wentz was most likely on the move. And now there are like 10 guys who might be more likely than him to go somewhere. So yeah, I do think they'll get something done, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. And I know that there are people saying, well, if they don't get something done by March long term, the Cowboys need to explore the market. I don't know that it's as cut and dry as that because they can tag him again. But if they don't get something done by the July deadline long term, I think there's a pretty good chance he's not here after 2021.
Wow.
I want to ask a quick follow-up because on that Eagles note, with Dak, I saw you tweet today that Brian Johnson was hired from Florida to be the Philly QB coach, and he was Dak's high school coach, right?
College quarterback.
College, okay.
Mississippi State.
So are we worried at all there? He stays in the division?
It is funny. I was like, I know. It is funny. So Brian Johnson had been his quarterback's coach at Mississippi State when Dan Mullen was the head coach there. And now most recently he was at Florida as the offensive coordinator under Dan Mullen, and the Eagles brought him in. And I mean, I like almost feel like we should just stop trying to explain hires lately because they've been so weird and so nonsensical. And I'm not saying that these guys can't do a good job, but what you would generally predict people to factor into a coaching decision, I don't think have been the primary factors lately. So yeah, it certainly seems like they liked what he's done with college quarterbacks, including Dak, and that's what they want him to do for Wentz and for Jalen Hurts potentially too. He certainly knows Dak very well. Dak has evolved as a quarterback pretty significantly since he was in college. So that helps. I think what's more funny to me is almost personally, because I know Dak is still really close with his college coaches. It's like, well, maybe you don't talk to them as much in season. Because I think he was still talking to them a lot in season, and I don't think you do that anymore.
Now we can't tell him all his new tricks.
No.
Yeah.
Someone threw out an interesting trade offer today that I was thinking about. I think Dak, something will get done long term with him, but they were saying Deshaun's on the market. He's much cheaper. He's probably similar talent to Dak. Or maybe no, he's not the cheaper one. Never mind. He's signed long term. Stafford's much cheaper. But Deshaun and JJ Watt for Dak in the 10th pick. I said I don't think I want to give up Dak for anything, even though Deshaun's good. But if you throw in JJ Watt there, beyond the talent, I would love having that guy in Dallas. I love everything about
personality.
That sounds almost as lopsided as your fantasy basketball trade with Zach 10.
Yeah, I disagree. The second one worked out in my favor. DeAndre Hunter's playing well, but it was a good try, Jordan.
Yeah, I agree on the hires though, because I feel like I'm going to say that we do have a little bit of breaking news here on Unmasked that, Jori, if you have to go attend to this, I understand, but
I haven't checked anything.
The Texans just hired David Culley as our head coach, the Ravens assistant. Interesting that they're not going.
I like
with
how
one
Jordan's giving breaking news.
Yeah, a little break, because it is a little bit on Deshaun watch here, because we do know that he liked Eric Bieniemy, and they didn't wait for the Chiefs to get bounced before bringing him on, and they went ahead with the Ravens assistant. But
Jordan, you're telling me the Texans aren't consulting Deshaun Watson on their decision making?
Weird, right?
So strange. It's not like they promised him they would or something.
Yeah, it would be smart, right? Someone who you want to build your franchise. It's not like they have a track record of getting rid of franchise game-altering talent, wide receivers, named DeAndre Hopkins or anything. So, but yeah, I don't know what happens with Deshaun Watson. I think Matthew Stafford to Dallas would be pretty interesting, just for the homecoming story.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
We shall see, though.
But do you think he can take us to a Super Bowl, though? I don't know.
No, I do not think that's an upgraded quarterback, but I think that's someone that Jerry would love to have in his back pocket, just for the name sake.
But Jori, who are some of your favorite Cowboys to interact with?
I'm sorry, you actually are. I'm like texting a couple of people about this news, but I doubt they're going to get back to me. So if they don't,
sorry about that.
No, this is
Jordan Jori's news. This is great.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Jori, you should tweet, and then you should be like at Jordan Servants.
Hey, USA Today, if you're listening to this, I graduate in May. Looking for a full-time opportunity. Would love to be of any assistance.
Wait, let me ask you one more question, and then I'll carry on amongst yourselves.
Zach, we can talk about a little bit of NBA real quick, if you want, because I wanted to get your take on Russell Westbrook. I know that this is a sensitive topic for you. You have been the biggest Westbrook stan that I have ever seen in my entire life. Is he getting a jersey out? That would be
gotta pull out the jersey.
All right. You have loved him. I go to Oklahoma City every winter, and you are still a bigger Thunder fan. And I really admire your dedication.
Westbrook fan.
Okay, but you've stayed somewhat of a Thunder fan.
Yeah, he's wearing two jerseys.
I did last year, or I did a little bit. So not as much now.
Explain to us how Westbrook salvages his career. Does he adapt his game, shoot more threes? Because his quickness looks like it's deteriorating. He's on a bad team. Like, how does he stay Westbrook? It's funny.
I don't think it's like, in theory, I don't think it's that hard for him to continue to be an elite player, at least close to that. I think, no question, this season he has been far, far inferior to his past years. People said, last year wasn't a great year. I strongly disagree. If you look from January to March before the pandemic, he was averaging, I think, 32 points a game, 7-7 on 57% shooting. He was the most efficient 2-month period of his career. So it wasn't last year. It was last year in the bubble, after he had COVID and hurt his quad, that he was much worse. So I thought going into this year, okay, the bubble was an anomaly. He'll be back to normal. And not so much has changed. He still does what he does well in terms of distributing and rebounding. And he still does poorly what he does poorly, which is shoot the ball.
Very poorly, Zach.
Okay, so I saw a stat. I'll even admit, I saw a stat yesterday. He has 163 points on the season on 163 shots, which is definitely not ideal. So I think he's struggled maybe more than he ever has, but it's the same way he's struggling. And what perplexes me is he knows he's not an efficient player. He knows he's not a good shooter. He knows what he's good at, and he works really, really hard, and he wants to win. So what it doesn't make sense to me is Russell Westbrook's mentality and then Russell Westbrook's performance, because I would think with his mentality, his performance should change because, like you're saying, he should adapt, take less threes, go to the rim more, and distribute it more. And yet he's not, and I don't know why. So it's perplexing for sure.
Wonder if he knows that he's not like the 1A anymore. Because
I think he does. I
He's not-
mean, first of all, I think he kind of was in Houston last year when he was just driving to the basket and only taking 1 3 a game, but he's taking a bunch again. And if he stops taking those threes, I do not think he's the 1A. I think Bradley Beal is clearly the better scorer, but he could be at 22 points per game on efficient shooting if he just stops shooting from the outside.
All right, unless people get back to me, I'm good for now.
okay.
I was gonna ask Jori something. Oh,
Yeah.
Jori, who are your favorite Cowboys to interact with?
Dak is definitely my favorite when he is around to interact with. Just such a smart guy, such a thoughtful person. The way his brain works just fascinates me because I'm like, where did that just come from? But like in the best ways. And he's just super genuine. So he's definitely my favorite. Really like Amari too. That was definitely one of the biggest downsides to this season, which I'm not complaining, I'm thrilled for the job, but is like the best part of the job, in my opinion, would be like really building the relationships with these players and with these people who we're trying to report on. And we couldn't go in the locker room or see them up close, like actually in person this year. So, but Amari Cooper was always like great, especially in more casual situations. And he cracks me up with his love of chess. So that's really fun. CeeDee Lamb.
He also loves the Rubik's Cube, as you wrote.
Yes, he does love the Rubik's Cube. He can solve the 3x3 one, and he plans to learn the 4x4 one, but he's saving that process for the right moment. So stay tuned. And I'm trying to think who else is really great. DeMarcus Lawrence used to be one of my favorites, but this year he kind of avoided us. So if he would come back, he might be able to reclaim that spot. I don't think he's too concerned about that. But yeah, no, I mean, Amari's great. CD was really interesting this year. I'm trying to think who else. Honestly, a lot of the guys I think are just interesting people, and that's one of the things I like most. Like Randy Gregory's a super interesting guy. So I think when you catch him right, I really like talking to them.
Fun fact, I watched CD put on his Cowboys jersey for the first time ever.
Oh, right. You were interning, what was it, with Wasserman last year or something?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
We were in the hotel room. He came in and he's like, is that my 88? Is that for me? And then he's like, can I put it on? And we're like, yeah, you're doing the photo shoot. And then he put it on. He's like, hey, take a picture of me. Like, just loved it.
Right. And it's funny because even though that was just a moment, that's the type of thing. Like, I just thought he had a lot of very like pure joy, excitement at moments this year. That was really fun to see.
Especially for someone who was a standout in college. You wouldn't think that he'd get so, starstruck by the moment. But it was, I mean, putting on that star and that number 88 for being a wide receiver, it's meant something to him. And that made me feel good as a fan. Like, I was excited for him,
Yeah, absolutely.
I can confirm the college standout thing. Zach and I were at the Texas OU game, and man, did CD burn us there.
Oh yeah, he burned Texas like crazy. But no, what you were saying about like, I don't think he's let it get to his head. I interviewed his college receivers coach for a story, and I actually didn't print this part of it, but their receivers coach, Dennis Simmons, was talking about how CD would come over to their house and play Nerf guns upstairs with his 6-year-old. And I was like, who would win? He's like, I don't know. I would just hear them upstairs, like running around playing with these Nerf guns. And like, also the son's name was Cannon. And I'm like, that's a great name for Nerf guns. But it's just like things like that I thought were just, like you said, very, very genuine.
Everyone's important. He's just like a very nice guy. Yeah. I love that about him. Well, I know that news could strike at any minute. So I want to get into the Super Bowl before we lose you, just because it is a big game. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but what are you guys, both of you guys I know are very big NFL fans as a whole. So what are your keys to the game? And then what are your predictions? Who wins, final score, MVP, everything?
Zach, you want to go first or do you want me to start?
Well, I don't know you're getting all this questions. You got it. You go for it.
Yeah, think about it.
Okay, keys to the game. not turning the ball over is definitely going to be a big one. Capitalizing when the other team turns the ball over, and probably converting on third downs. And I would say all that stuff because if you look at Tampa beating the Packers last week, Brady was fantastic in the first half, particularly. And I think they converted their first 5 third down attempts and 6 of their first 7. And that just allowed them to really sustain drives. I wouldn't say they wore down the Green Bay defense, but I just felt like they were really able to get into a rhythm that allowed them to build that lead, to gain the momentum, and arguably to give them the confidence to go for that touchdown right before the half, which ended up being really key. At the same time, in the second half of that game, Brady threw 3 interceptions on 3 straight possessions and got really lucky lucky / his defense did a great job. But I would not, if you give Aaron Rodgers 3 short fields going backwards, I don't remember exactly what the field position, but if you give him three gifts, usually he's not going to only make moves on one of them. And so I think that if you do that against the Chiefs are going to make you pay for it. I think that for Mahomes is fantastic with ball security, fantastic moving around the pocket. He will be a little bit troubled by the fact that his left tackle tore his Achilles, I believe it was, in the last game, and they already were down their right tackle. And so the Bucs have a pretty good pass rush that I think is going to be a threat, especially against a weaker Chiefs offensive line. But I think that the Chiefs seem to rise to occasions really well, and that's going to make the difference, which is why I'm predicting Chiefs 31, Bucs 27.
All right. I'm with that. Zach, what about you?
Well, Jori, maybe next time I'm going to go first. So, because Jori took some of the good things. So, the Chiefs have
Do the bad things.
I mean, it's interesting. The Chiefs, you could look at their season one of 2 ways. You can look at it as they've lost 1 game where Patrick Mahomes played, or you can look at it as like 6 or 7 weeks in a row they won by no more than 1 possession. So which Chiefs team is going to show up? Is it the Chiefs team that's barely beating bad teams, or is it the Chiefs team that's blowing out the Bills? And then the Bucs, I was high on the Bucs all season. Going into the playoffs, I told my dad I thought they had a good shot at the Super Bowl. He said, no way they went on the road 3 times in a row. They did. And I think Brady has played well some games, not as well others. As Jory said, it was a tale of 2 halves last game. And I think I feel good about the Bucs defense making Mahomes uncomfortable. I know that's really hard to do. I think they'll force 1 pick, and they're not going to pick him off several times, but they'll force 1 pick. They'll put a lot of pressure on him, and it won't look like the normal Chiefs offense that you're used to. That's just driving down the field over and over and over. I don't expect Brady to play a perfect game, but he's not going to throw 3 picks in the Super Bowl. I think it was fluky what happened last week. And I'm actually going to go Bucs 27, Chiefs 24. I think Mahomes will play well, throw for 3 touchdowns, throw for a bunch of yards, but I think the Bucs defense will be just enough to slow him down, and the offense will be good enough and capitalize on that turnover by Mahomes to pull out a close W. And I don't see anyone else getting Super Bowl MVP. Brady spreads it around to these guys too much. I mean, sometimes it happened in New England, but here I think with the narrative and the way he spreads it around, there's so many studs around him. Brady will grab his 7th Super Bowl, have more Super Bowls than any franchise out there, and a 5th Super Bowl MVP.
Do you know that he's won 33 playoff games, and the next highest is 16? I think
it's ridiculous.
He's like,
yeah, and
that's one of the craziest stats I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
Yeah, and he's been in the NFC for like 9 months and already has as many NFC championships as Breeze and Rodgers each.
Yeah. My dad always says growing up, like Joe Montana was no question the greatest. And like you said, Montana has like 12 playoff wins or 16, and Brady has more than double that.
Yeah, Aikman has 11, Rodgers has 11, Brady has 33. And that doesn't include all the buys that the Patriots got for being a top 2 seed in the AFC all those years.
Yeah, this is his first wild card weekend not first wild card weekend. It's his first wild card game, like his first time being the wild card. He hasn't had that many wild card weekends. Like you said, he's pretty much always at the top.
Yeah,
greatest player of all time.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
We'll see if he gets number 34 in about a week or so, whenever. I don't know when we're going to air this, but hopefully it's very soon to the Super Bowl. My final prediction is closer to Jori's. It's going to be, I'm say 31 to I'll say 28 just to make it different. But I think it's going to be a really close game, and the Chiefs are going to pull it out. I'll give Travis Kelce as my MVP just because I love Travis Kelce. Best investment I've ever made as a fantasy manager was taking him in the second round.
Yeah.
Never disappoints.
One of my pledge brothers grew up with the Kelce, so he said, yeah, David Fleischer. He said he doesn't know him well, but the family is in town and they were all rooting for them last year
In Cleveland?
Yeah, and they were excited when Travis won it.
I just hope that we don't have to hear again that the Buccaneers are the first team ever to play in their home stadium, because I feel like ESPN has worn that out. I don't need to hear that. Don't need to hear that Brady's the oldest quarterback to play in a. I feel like these are very common now, but I know that it's going to be 2 weeks of all that coming.
Well, just because you said that, I'll add something fun. One of my friends works on pricing for Airbnbs around the country, and she was in charge of Tampa this weekend. And she said the company was really upset when the Bucs won, because when the Bucs win, there goes half your Airbnbs and half the people don't have to travel. So it really messed with their market.
I remember Minnesota had that problem a couple years ago, and they almost made it. And they lost in the NFC Championship game, but all the hotels were very upset.
Yeah, you lose half your business.
Yeah, they couldn't book anything. So, all right. Well, we want to move into really quickly an Epstein family lightning round.
Yes.
We're gonna.
What we've all been waiting for.
Yes, we're gonna get a little competitive here. Zach, do you want to kick us off?
Yes. Who is the favorite Epstein child?
Between the two of you.
Oh, come on. Did you really expect an answer on that?
Okay, overall. Is there another one that we can drag in?
We can go orderly, Jori.
I know, I was saying that. Our parents are like really obsessed, like a fault, not to a fault, but pretty close to a fault, to never picking favorites. But Zach definitely had looser rules than our older sister Daly, and I'm sure she would love to come on the podcast and discuss that.
I'll agree with that one. I'd say one.
She's looking for a place to air her grievances. Give her the home.
Okay, one, I'm a loosey-goosey guy. Two, it comes with being the fourth child. The parents tried out 3 times around. They know what they're doing the fourth time.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, for people who are listening, there are 4 Epstein children. So just
we're number Jori's 2.
Now
Jason and Daly are not here, but
I've zoomed to 3 of them now. I just seen it get Daly. I had another for Jason last semester.
All right, between you two, who's the messiest?
Question.
I'll go you, but neither of us are that messy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty
I'm more likely to make to leave my mess in Zach's room than he is in mine.
I'll give you that. Yeah, that's true.
And then this is per Zach's request, because he said you guys are really into this right now. Who's the best at code names?
Oh, code names?
Neither of us right now.
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to say anagrams, where I crushed Zach.
No,
I thought you said that was the Epstein family board
game.
game.
No, it is. It is. Anagrams is a
so actually,
message game.
Actually, Zach and I played a bunch of rounds versus our parents over his winter break, and they crushed us.
Not to mention, they were both falling asleep at the same time. My mom would wake up to guess my dad's answer as my dad would fall asleep, and then she would guess it. She'd fall asleep. Dad would wake up to think of the next one, and they beat us. And then also, my Jori and I and my parents, we played against my cousins. I don't know, Jori, if you're on this call. We played against my first cousins, Codenames Online. My cousins swept us the first time in a 4-0 series, and in 4 games of Codenames, missed 1 total clue. Like, it was nearly a perfect series. It was unbelievable. So I definitely gotta up my Codenames game, but for all the board games Jori doesn't want to play when I ask her, she's definitely in for Codenames.
Okay, but Zach, anagrams, what percentage of the time do I beat you?
I don't want to talk about it. Anagrams is a game pigeon word game on iMessage. Jori and I have played, I'd say, hundreds of times.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we try and see if I can beat him 10 times in a row, and once I got to 20.
You did not get to 20?
That one time? What'd I get?
It was over 10. I don't know if it was 20.
Really? I thought I was getting close.
Zach, you're getting dragged.
Jori,
definitely over 10.
Can I tell the secret?
Oh.
Jori,
how many people listen to this?
I don't know how many people listen to this, but Jori gets a lot of wonderful requests on her phone, whether texts or calls. And so sometimes she can't always reply to all of them at once. But and if I want her to reply, the trick is you send her a game of anagrams. She'll reply within like 5 minutes. She said, "Don't tell." So Unmasked podcast listeners, you didn't hear this, but if you need Jori to respond to something, send over a game of anagrams.
We'll keep
Actually,
it
the
in
deal
mind.
was for every person Zach told, he owed me an hour of his time as my assistant. So I'm clocking it.
I do not remember that deal.
Have it in writing.
Yeah.
Well, we got 60 viewers on our last YouTube video, so
Oh, wow.
that's 60 hours right there.
Jori's gonna be so
And
excited.
right
She's
This
gonna
now.
is the best thing that's happened all year.
Jori, and you're gonna get so many anagrams games coming your way.
Yeah.
My next question for you guys is, who's your dream dinner guest?
Dream get it. Did they have to be alive?
Yeah.
No. Zach, tell them who it's gonna say. You know who I'm gonna say.
I don't remember which.
What time period did he live in?
I don't know what
My
time
dream year.
period. It's a famous rabbi from some time ago.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. The dude was a beast. He,
Elaborate, Jori. Jori's been telling me this for a long time. No one knows. Yeah.
Well, I still haven't had dinner with him. So if I have
That's
dinner with
the
him, I might
beginning.
move on. But when they were about to destroy the second temple, he got one request from the emperor after he saved the emperor's life. And instead of choosing the temple, he chose. That's not a word. Writer over here. He chose Yavne, the center of Jewish learning, because he realized that Jewish learning, rather than just ritual, was going to keep us going. And I think that's great. So I want to have dinner with him and discuss it further. But
And
he's,
Wow.
but he's
That's-
like, this was like in the year like 68 CE or something.
That's the most insightful answer we've ever
Very
gotten.
unique one.
Oh, thank
Definitely
you.
the most insightful answer. Zach,
Yeah.
top that. Really.
Mine are a lot more household names, I would say.
Not R, you get one.
Rabbi Yochanan ben
Well,
Zakkai.
okay, fine. Okay, fine. Mine changed recently. I'm reading President Obama's memoir, and I think memoir on his presidency, and I think it's fascinating. I love talking to people who have really big platforms, not because they're famous, but because I'm fascinated by what they do with their platforms. And I think if you read Obama's book, it's really cool to see how the same person has to be the commander-in-chief of the army, work on climate change, work on the economy, work on foreign relations all at the same time. Because I think outside of someone like the president, most people only have to focus on one big thing in their job. But having that role, you have to wear so many hats and be able to think on such a high level in so many different ways. And I'd love to talk to him about that and kind of hear more.
The Promised Land. I heard it's a good book. Definitely not as good as The Upstander, but
I was
you know,
gonna say
it'll be-
Oh,
I gotta get it
thanks,
done.
guys.
The upstander is coming, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Best athlete quote of all time. Jori, this could be something that you've heard in person. Zach, your
Ooh.
favorite YouTube clip. I don't know, but your favorite
Good
quote that you've heard.
question. Zach, you can go first.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Best athlete quote of all
I'm trying to
time.
think like there's funny ones, there's motivating.
Yeah.
Wait, funny story about that. When I worked at Sports Illustrated, they would have me do these like little feature things for the magazine. And there must have been like a baseball manager, someone at the time, this was spring 2015, that had just gone off on this huge cursing rant. And so they had me go through all like the most curse-laden tirades of all time and like create a feature off it. So it'd be like, this guy used 7 different cuss words in 20 minutes and he used one as many as 13 times. Like this one only used 1 word, but he used it 14 times per minute. And I did this whole feature on it and I'm like, this is hilarious because I literally never cuss. And then to make it even better, like y'all, at least some of you guys know the Wolks probably, like the Wolk family, which is like one of the rabbis in our communities, were like, oh, we saw you in the magazine. And I'm like, but can you not?
Lori's been dropping F-bombs left and right ever since.
Did you get
Yeah, I've literally never.
did you get Ron Washington pre-Game 7 2011 World Series speech in there?
I think that actually
That-
does sound
I think he
I'll have to
dropped-
find it for you.
I think he dropped 20 cuss words in a span of 2 minutes in that one, but
That sounds like something I was off calculating.
yeah. But yeah, have you guys heard of any inspiring quotes firsthand, on TV, anything that
So
keep-
I'll drop 2. First of all, you said anything is possible, very relevant to this week. I have to say, when Chad Henne made the play a couple weeks ago, anything is
Anything.
possible was
That was
unbelievable.
iconic by Mahomes.
It was iconic. Also, Chad Henne hit the only social media he has is LinkedIn, which is hilarious. And like everyone knows that now. And he started selling something on LinkedIn the other day. So good for the guy for making money creatively on LinkedIn while he's about to be in the Super Bowl. But I'm going to go a little different direction, Jordan, if it's okay. Instead of an athlete, I'm going to go a sports broadcaster / TV personality. People love the ESPYs, and probably my favorite ESPY speech of all time was Stuart Scott.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he died maybe a month after he gave the speech, and he said, when you die, that does not mean you lose to cancer. You beat cancer by how you live, why you live, and the manner in which you live. And that like just shapes your perspective. The guy was in chemo like a day before he did the speech. I listen to it every year, and I think it was a phenomenal life perspective type quote, where it's just like you can look at something one way and be upset about it, or you can attack it head on with your family and your friends and go at it, and that we should all live our lives that way.
And
I
Jimmy
can't beat
V's
that.
too. Jimmy V's 1993
Jimmy V's is great too.
SB. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll take it for both of us. That one's good.
It's a personal favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a tough question for you guys.
Hit us
How
up.
would, how would the Cowboys record change if Coach Walker replaced Mike McCarthy as head coach?
Oh wow.
Coach Walker took over what? The head coaching
Over as
job?
head coach, yeah.
Whew.
Their 2020 record.
Yeah.
What were they? Are they 5 and 11?
I'm gonna go 12-4. I mean, have you seen Coach
Very
Walker's,
disciplined.
Coach Walker's history of winning is unprecedented at Yavne. Zim has been good for the men's, but you look at Coach Walker at Akiba Yavne. First of all, he three-peated in middle school IAA basketball.
Which
I mean,
is tough to do.
it is tough to do. It could be because Jason Epstein, our brother, was on all those teams. I'm not saying that's not the reason.
The favorite child, right?
Yeah, good try. Way to sneak it in there. So, I mean, he three-peated with the middle school team, and he coached by far the best Yavne women's team of all time, which was actually Jori's senior year. They won. How many championships did you win, Jori? You only went to one, or you went to two?
Two fake championships. I warmed the
I
bench
don't
beautifully for both of them.
I don't think they were fake championships. They won 2 tournaments that year. The women, I think, in the rest of the 26 years of Yavne have won 0. So Coach Walker's coaching record is unprecedented. I'm gonna go strong 12-4, lose to Brady in the NFC Championship.
I want to see like Coach Walker going to the end. Like I feel like he could be a decent tight end in terms of receiving threat. Like,
No, but I thought he's the coach, isn't he?
right. I'm just giving us options here.
Yeah, I mean, he could do whatever.
He's the career coach. He can be
But
both.
no, I do think that, let's say they were 6 and 10. I'll give them 8 and 8 if they had Coach Walker.
8 and 8.
I think he would have hired. I think his defensive staff would have been a little more cohesive.
I would agree with that.
I like that.
All right. So to conclude, this is probably for Jori because Zach is our age. We want to know, do you have any advice for us aspiring professionals, college students about to embark on careers?
Well, my first advice would be to always go to Zach for advice because that's what I do, and that's what's gotten me where I am. Wise person.
I do not agree with that, but I appreciate it.
But no, I think that being in like enthusiasm and work ethic, if you can combine those two, it's a pretty hard combination to beat. And I would encourage you to find things that you can. Zach's sending me anagrams in the middle of this. Now we have to play on air before you get off so I can show the world that I beat you.
Got your attention.
I know, he knows how to get my attention. I had muted it, but then the news broke, so I had to be back. Anyways, but yeah, no, I think enthusiasm and a work ethic, I think that it's important to realize that sometimes your job isn't going to look exactly like how you want it to be, and taking pride in getting a job done and being a good team member is really important, not just doing what you think you want to do, like be more about your company or your client or whatever than you. And don't be afraid to ask. I think there are so many times in my career, both in terms of searching for jobs and in terms of attempting interviews, that you just have to go for it, and you never know when it's going to work. And don't be afraid of rejection. I usually say that, like, if I get rejected or someone doesn't get back to me, I'm like, great, because I feel like roughly 1 out of 10 times I ask for interview requests, they get granted. So if I get rejected, I'm like, perfect, only 7 left till the next one. Like after this, I'm going to email Giselle just in case she'll let me talk to Tom Brady's kids about what it means to watch their dad in the Super Bowl. Like, I do not expect that interview request to be granted, but I know, going back to the quotes of the athletes, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's a great one.
There we go.
So yeah, I
Scott,
think that would be my advice for y'all.
Keep us updated.
That's-
Dr. Brady's kids.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
awesome. They have
to hear.
like, there are so many people who would make more sense for them to talk to than you, but like, if they don't ask and I do, let's see.
That's a unique slant too. I really like that.
Right, because it's hard. I mean, you could have kids at any age, but not that many people are still playing at this level when their kids are old enough to really remember it. So,
and they've watched him different teams, different
Yeah.
stages. It's really awesome. That would be really cool. Well, we want to end with however long you have to talk about your book. We'd love to hear what it's about and where people can find it. The Upstander coming in March, right?
yes, March 23rd, it will release, pre-orderable now on Amazon. Yes, thank you guys so much for asking. So for the last 4.5 years, Holocaust survivor Max Globin and I have been working on his memoir. So as mentioned a little bit at the beginning of this show, Max and I went on an educational program called March of the Living together, where we traveled to Poland and visited the concentration camps, including the camp where his mom and brother were killed and his father was killed nearby. But really the last 4.5 years since I graduated college, Max told me, I was looking back at our notes recently from one of our first meetings, and he said he wanted to write a book that we wanted to write a book that people would read, a book that would not create more hate in the world, and a book that would really show people who he is. And so it was important to me that this book didn't start in 1939 and end in 1945, because something that I really learned on March the Living was I remember when I just visited the concentration camps, I'll never be able to understand or comprehend what happened in the Holocaust. It's incomprehensible, and that word is very real and not hyperbole for the Holocaust. That being said, once we went back and toured the Jewish communities and saw the houses and the synagogues, I felt like I had a closer to an understanding of all that was lost and taken away from the world. And so it's important to me that for Max, we really get a sense of his childhood, the times he's getting in trouble with his mom, like what he and his brother are doing when they're playing with the girls on their family vacation. And like some of those things that like you don't hear necessarily if you're just thinking about the camps. And then you do hear about what's happening when he's smuggling in the ghetto, when the Warsaw Ghetto uprising is happening, why he was able to survive in the camps, both mentally and literally why they kept him alive. And then after the war, like the Holocaust doesn't stop plaguing these people when they got liberated, because you have so much trauma. You lost your family. You're now an orphan at 17 years old. And what are you supposed to do? And so what was amazing about Max's story is we have a lot of primary documents. So I have the caseworker papers from the day he got to America, where the social worker is assessing him and trying to understand, like, okay, he's nervous and depressed and he wants to go to school, but knows he probably needs to get a job. And then we talk to his kids, his grandkids, a dozen students who have gone on March the Living with him to really try and capture what is life like for a Holocaust survivor after they're no longer physically in the camps, but psychologically still battling it. And so I think that I'm really excited we have his whole narrative in a cohesive form, because our generation generally will be the last generation to have this kind of really deep relationship with a survivor. And I'm excited also that we were able to really look at the Holocaust through the lens of one person, because it's just too much to comprehend the entire history. But if you're like, okay, I just get to know Max and he feels like my brother, my cousin, my son, my uncle, and then you try and reckon with it, and then you come back to it and you have Max's like jokes and quirks and charm throughout, it's a little bit easier to like stomach the story, for lack of a better word. So we're so excited, and we also appreciate all of your interest in it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And like we said, Zach and I spent time with Max, with you on the trip. And I think it's amazing that we didn't even know that that's what you're working on. I'm sure you were there for a lot of reasons, but just the fact that you're writing that. And
I knew Jordan. I just had to keep it on the DL.
Okay, well, so I guess you are good at keeping some secrets.
I was really nervous for a long time that we wouldn't finish the project. So I'm like, how in the world are we going to do this? So it's kind of like, let's just see where we go. But then I had to leave before we got to Warsaw. And so Jonathan Nurka was like recording Max talking for me. But yeah, it's definitely, what was that, 2017? Now it's 2021. Like it's been a long journey, but a really meaningful one and rewarding one.
Yeah, because you didn't even go to Israel with us. That's right.
No, but I got back for the NFL draft, which I don't recommend. Like I got home at like back to Dallas at like 12 or 1, and then I worked that night from like 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. I was so tired. I was like, it'll be fine. It's the draft. I'll sleep Friday, because the draft was Thursday night. Literally was falling asleep at my keyboard. I woke up and there were a bunch of H's on my screen because I fell asleep on the H key. And then I remember one of my colleagues being like, you're not driving home. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And he was like, you have to stand. First, he was going to follow me, and then he stayed on the phone with me the entire time. So don't recommend that quick turnaround. It was a nice thought. Less good in action.
But
At least
now we got a book for it.
Yeah, unbelievable.
At least you
Thank
got to go home with our friend Noah. That was probably very pleasant.
Shout out Noah on the pod.
But yeah, that was an amazing trip, and I'm glad that so much has come out of it, and really look forward to reading the book. Do you want to say once again where people can find it?
Yes, that'd be great. And I think you said YouTube, so maybe we can even include the link in the show
Yeah.
notes. But
Sure.
The Upstander, and you can find it. I'd Amazon is the easiest place. If you search the Upstander, and you can search it with Jori Epstein or Max Globin, it is available for pre-order. And we are now under 2 months from the release date, so
Wow.
getting really close.
All right. Well, look out for that. Look out for Jason Witten becoming a coach, the Cowboys making some changes, just a lot of stuff coming up, the Super Bowl. Thank you guys for taking the time. Should be an exciting next few weeks, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on, guys. This was fun.
We'll send you an anagram when we're ready. Don't worry.
Oh, no.
The world knows, Jory.
Exactly.
And we are back on Unmasked after a great interview with the Epstein siblings. Sensational. And you can tell it's me now on Sunday, January 31st, because the scar's healing. So if you paid attention to the beginning, we're back. It is present day. But anyway, Zach, what did you think of that interview?
Wow, I just gained so much perspective. What about you?
No, I loved it. I mean, like, you can tell that Jori is such a great journalist just by the way that she converses. I think, like, asking us our opinion after we asked her a question, it's very, like, that inquisitive nature. She's just really good at what she does, and it's just
She's so good at what she's just great.
So great.
Right.
And Zach too, like that whole family's so outgoing that it's very easy to have a conversation and just be very genuine and, like, walls down, very open.
Absolutely.
So it was really nice to do that, to catch up with them. We've been really wanting to do it for a long time, but what better time than leading up to the Super Bowl? So, and with the release of her book,
Yeah, can't wait to read that.
Yeah, the Upstander, March, it's coming out. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to post the link in the YouTube description, so you can access that very easily. But anyway, today is January 31st, but we're going to post this. Our goal is Wednesday, February 3rd. So we are going to do Today in History, Wednesday, February 3rd. Are you ready, Zach Den?
I'm ready.
And newly admitted to UT, Adam Lowy. All right.
Always ready.
1979, Rod Carew was traded to the California Angels from the Minnesota Twins. Why is this relevant? Why am I talking about Rod Carew? Zach, because I just saw a video of Adam Sandler balling out playing pickup in triple XL shorts at an open gym. And I love his song, the Hanukkah song, where he says, Hall of Famer Rod Carew, he converted. And I thought immediately of this, and mazel tov to Rod Carew on his trade. But more importantly, man, Adam Sandler was balling out. And did you see the video or no?
Was it the one where he, like, does all those flashy passes and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've seen it in a while. Yeah.
He's like, but I think it was a recent one. Like, they said the caption was like, why is Adam Sandler always playing pickup? And it was just him, like, it wasn't even that impressive. And his dribbling, like, he carried it every time. Like, man.
No, he's a good passer, man. He's like a Ricky Rubio.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe him. Just thought it was funny. 1980, George Gervin wins the MVP at the 30th All-Star game.
The Iceman.
So yeah, what do you think of the Iceman? We've never talked about him, but is he the second greatest Spur of all time?
No, I would say it's David Robinson, second greatest.
Oh yeah, okay. But is he on the Mount Rushmore at least?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say absolutely.
They said he was like the Kevin Durant before Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah. That's the big comparison. Is KD, like, a little, KD before KD was even breathing. But yeah, dude, he was a clean scorer. That's like his thing. very crafty, multiple MVPs. Someone could say the GOAT,
Okay.
but maybe me. Yeah, he's a legend, absolute legend, like Adam.
Yeah, just like him. All right, we're gonna flash forward to 2008, February 3rd. Eli Manning and the Wild Card Giants beat the undefeated Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I just want to get your opinion on this. Is the David Tyree catch the most clutch Super Bowl play you've ever been alive for? I'll give you a second because there's been a lot.
Yeah, dude, I'm thinking about that that Seahawks.
Yeah, Malcolm Butler's interception.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that one. I don't really remember the one you're talking about as much, so I'd have to go with that.
The David Tyree, the helmet one, where he's like holding it, he pins it on his helmet at midfield,
yeah,
where Eli like avoids the sack and then he
that
throws
was
it up.
crazy.
Yeah.
That very well could be. The
Yeah.
Super Bowl always creates such exciting moments. Like
Yeah.
every year. I hope it's like that this year.
You had the Edelman catch when they came back against the Falcons that he like juggled it on the ground. And then there was that Malcolm Butler interception. You have the Santonio Holmes toe tap in the corner from Ben Roethlisberger to beat the Cardinals. I'm trying to think of the ones I've been alive for. Then you have the ones that will never be remembered because they lost the game. And those are the saddest to me. Like no one remembers the shot that tied the game, but then they lose,
Yeah.
So like to set up that Malcolm Butler interception, Jermaine Kearse had a bobbling catch to put the Seahawks inside the 5-yard line. Amazing catch. No one's going to remember it. The Seahawks lost the Super Bowl.
Wow, that's a good point. That's so sad.
It's not, because it's when people think of the best catches, it's context, right? It's like, did it help you win the game? Like no one
Did it win the game, right?
Right. One of my favorite examples is do you remember the Villanova buzzer beater against North Carolina where Archidiakono shoveled it to Jenkins, and it was like in the national championship game.
Oh
and
yeah,
it was like the trail 3. So that won it, and like that gets so much love. But to set that up, UNC's Marcus Page had a double clutch like in the air 3-pointer from probably 30 feet out that didn't even hit backboard. Like he double clutched midair, threw it up, and he tied the game. It's one of the most remarkable shots I've ever seen.
Huh.
But they lost the game. No one's ever going to remember it.
Okay,
so
I would counter that with what about that Gordon Hayward shot when he was playing college ball?
Butler, against
Butler.
Duke.
I feel like everybody knows that shot.
But he missed it.
But he missed it, right? But I'd still argue that was like a pretty famous like the shot kind of moment,
Okay, yeah, I think like notable shots like that, it's like, oh, he almost beat them. But when it's a shot that's like an amazing shot that like actually a great play, it always gets forgotten compared to the play that won the game.
Right.
Just it's really sad, but it's what happens. But anyway, I think that is the greatest play in the Super Bowl that I've been alive for, and I think that's the greatest upset I've ever seen. Even more so, I would put that up with UMBC when they beat Virginia.
That was unreal.
That's a huge upset. Yeah. But I mean, a wild card team beating the undefeated, like the only team, second team, I guess, after Don Shula's Dolphins, it was undefeated. Like that's pretty remarkable. Beating the GOAT as a wild card.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to birthdays. Happy 52nd birthday to Terry Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw?
I was gonna see if you were gonna say something. Yeah, it's Terry Bradshaw's 52nd birthday, except this Terry Bradshaw was an outfielder for the St. Louis Cardinals. Gotcha. No, it was some random Terry Bradshaw's birthday. So happy birthday to the wrong Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw, the other one is like 70, so I don't know when his birthday is. I just thought it was awkward. It was so funny when I looked up the birthdays and saw Terry Bradshaw, and then I clicked on it. It was like, yeah, he's turning 52. I was like, that can't be right. And then it said he played for the Cardinals. Isaiah Roby is turning 23, former Mavs draft pick, and now is actually playing pretty well for OKC.
Yeah.
Is he on your waiver wire?
He is.
Oh, I want to snatch him up. That 8.5 points, 5 rebounds isn't going to be sitting there forever, Sure. Happy 53rd birthday to Vlade Divac. Divac.
Vlade Divac.
Yeah. So if I would have told you a player played for the Lakers in the 90s and the Kings in the early 2000s with Chris Webber and Mike Bibby, if you would have just like not known anything else, like you would have probably assumed he won at least one championship, right? Like,
That's tough.
and he never won a ring. I mean, it's one of the most remarkable basketball reference pages you'll ever see because he made the Hall of Fame. He only was an All-Star one time, and he was on all these great teams and never won a championship. Pretty bizarre.
Yeah, that is bizarre.
And to cap it off, he drafted Marvin Bagley over Luka. So there you go.
That's his legacy right there.
Yep. Basically there. Like so close, but never getting it. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
Also, Sean Kingston, turning 31, makes some great music. And the late Beau Biden, Joe Biden's son, would have been 52. So he passed away in 2015. He was his son who was in the military and, who passed away. But happy birthday to all on this February 3rd. And now, despite Zach not wanting me to do this again, I think it's only appropriate that I spend 30 seconds talking about last week's Bachelor. As you know, this is tonight is Sunday. Keep thinking it's Sunday. So the Bachelor's not until tomorrow. We're not going to post this until Wednesday. So this is going to be a little bit outdated, but just in case you want to binge, here's what happened on last week's episode for 30 seconds. You ready, Zach?
I guess.
Okay.
I got the
So
timer.
like I said, it's a weird time in the week because like tomorrow's the episode. But here's a quick summary. So new girls were introduced. First time that's happened. Like they brought new girls in week 4. Okay. He kept 4 of the 5 new girls, and the old girls got really upset because they're like, you're sending us home and you're keeping these girls you barely know. One of the new girls named Brittany got called an escort. Like the rumor spread that she was an escort. So that's a no-no. You don't do that. You don't make that up about someone. Another new girl, Michelle, got a one-on-one date with him. And that was great because she's cool and they were vibing. But the girls hated it because she had barely been on The Bachelor for like a day. And she already got more one-on-one time with him than anyone else got. So everyone's all mad, and stay tuned because there's going to be more drama. But there's new girls now and it's throwing everything out of whack. There you go.
That is
Done.
so interesting.
Done. Promise.
Wow, what a speed round right there.
Can you believe that if you like had built up all the confidence in the world and you signed up for this thing, you were so excited and you get there and imagine like the guys who you're competing with were like, yeah, he entertains girls for money. Like that, imagine like that rumor spreading about you. And then it's like your whole image is gone. Like then no one sees you the same way, even if it's not true.
It sounds like Adam.
It's petty is what it is. And Adam is petty.
How dare you? How dare you disrespect the great Air Adam?
The great Air Adam.
The great.
All right. Well, Adam, have you heard of Drake?
The guy that made the Tuesday song?
Yeah. Have you heard of Travis Scott?
Oh yeah, Sicko Mode?
Yeah, Sicko Mode. Exactly. Thank you. Because I was wondering if you knew, because our email this week comes from airadamut@gmail.com. So this is his new account. I think this is going to be a school account. And so he has submitted this email. He says, in Sicko Mode, Drake says, see the shots that I took, wet like I'm Book,
Oh, true.
And I want to know, Zach and Jordan, is there any way that this trade that Bill Simmons discussed on his podcast happens? And here's the trade. Devin Booker to the Warriors. Bradley Beal to the Suns. James Wiseman, the Wolves' #1 pick next year, to the Wizards. Give you a second to chew on that.
The Wolves. What are the Wolves getting?
The Wolves already gave up a first-round pick for D'Angelo Russell. The Warriors own their first-round pick in 2021.
Got you.
So it's going to be a top 5 pick.
Wow, that's crazy.
So the Wizards get Wiseman and a top 5 pick for Beal. The Suns get Beal for Booker, and the Warriors get Booker for the Wolves pick and Wiseman. So that next year they have Booker, Curry, Thompson, and Draymond Green.
Dude, I like it. Honestly, I like that a lot.
I know. I think everyone gets a good player.
I don't really see who loses that, honestly, because
I think it's pretty clear for the Warriors because Wiseman's a luxury. They got that pick for being bad last year. He's not. I don't think he's their future. Steph Curry has like 3 or 4 years left of like prime basketball, and they're going to want to maximize it when Klay comes back. Here's my Suns argument, though. The Suns are 10-8. They have CP3, who is in as much of win now mode as anyone is in the league. Like CP3's time is now. He's never made a finals. Devin Booker.
Is Beal going to be the one to put him there, though?
What'd you say?
Is Beal going to be the one to put him there?
Well, they're doing well now, and Booker has had a very underwhelming year. You put out a lineup of Chris Paul, Bradley Beal, who had, in his 5 straight 40-point games tonight, he had 30 something, I forget, but he's averaging over 30. You have that backcourt plus Ayton, and then Saric and Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges and all that whole slew of role players. Like that gives you a chance, maybe not to win this year, but you have Paul still for another year. You can build around that. Beal is under contract.
Yeah, sounds good to me. I'm in.
I think Beal's just a more win now mode of Booker. They're very similar, but I think Beal is just like 1 or 2 years ahead in progression of Booker. Is my thought.
I like it. I'll take it.
I like it too. And then you have Booker playing for the Warriors this year until Klay gets back, and then you have Klay back next year and ready to,
Oh yeah, but what happens when Klay comes back?
Well, he could be a small forward. He's 6'8". I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. I like it.
Okay. And you still have Andrew Wiggins. I mean, that team would be the small ball lineup would be Steph, Booker,
Klay.
Wiggins. Well,
Okay.
yeah, or right now at least Steph, Booker, Wiggins,
Right.
Draymond, and Looney.
Oh right. Yeah.
Still not bad.
It's not bad.
No, I like it. So thank you, Adam, for sending in that email because I think it's a great, just a really great trade for everyone. And it was really insightful. And I think you'll find yourself being that type of insightful academic, in college when you're at UT. So it's great preparation, and we really appreciate the email. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Jordan.
All right. Well, that wraps up a great show. We're just, again, so proud of you, Adam, and just look forward to your successes. Hook 'em.
Welcome. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. We will catch you guys later. Final Super Bowl predictions. I don't know if we ever said, or if you ever said yours, Zach.
Oh, well.
I keep it very private, stash away. I mean, I already said in the very beginning that Tampa Bay was going all the way, so I'm sticking.
Okay.
You got the
Adam?
GOAT. I think I have faith in the GOAT. And I think that when we were talking about last time, you were talking about how Tampa Bay's defense might be just enough. So I kind of think I'm going Bucks here.
Interesting.
Oh well, in that case, I think I'm gonna go Kansas.
Okay.
Betting is legal in Michigan now, so I'm all ears because I need some advice. We'll see. I know it's hard to bet against the GOAT, Tom Brady, but I think in this day and age, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, the young GOAT.
You don't do it. He's the baby GOAT. All right. Well, enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy your week, and we will be back soon. Take care. Be safe. See you guys.
Peace.